It's wild card weekend in the NFL, and the Giants head to Minnesota to take on the Vikings in what will be the Giants' first playoff game since 2016. What's up, y'all? I'm Brandon London, and I want to welcome you all to the first Blue Rush Preview Playoff Edition. That's right, playoffs. Our Giants show and podcast for the New York Post. It's the rematch that Giants fans have been waiting for after the Vikings beat New York Week 16, 27-24 on a 61-yard game-winning field goal. But let's talk about today's show. We've got Tyler Forness of Vikings Wire for Know Your Enemy. He's back. I went into the locker room and I spoke with Landon Collins and Shepard, who were the only two Giants on this current team the last time that they went to the playoffs. But first, let's bring in the gang. Paul Schwartz is the Giants beat writer for the New York Post, and you know he's got the inside scoop. He's been covering this team for a long time. And Lawrence Tynes knows all about the playoffs. He's got 2 Super Bowl rings wearing blue. Gentlemen, 7 years ago was the last time the Giants went to the playoffs. What were you doing 7 years ago? It's been a long time.
That's a great question, Brandon. Paul, great to see you guys. 7 years ago, man, I don't know what I can't even remember 7 years ago what I was doing.
I know what Paul? I was doing. I was covering the playoffs. You know, I went to Green Bay.
You were, but you weren't covering the Giants, were you? Or well, yeah, I guess you were.
7 years ago, look, I cover the playoffs every year. Some years the Giants are there. Some years they're not. Lately, they have not. That was Odell Beckham punching a hole about this size in the wall outside the locker room after that game. I mean, you can have a great feel-good season like that season was, Ben McAdoo's first year, and it all comes crashing down. I've seen it happen against the Vikings before. In 1997, Jim Fossil's first year, they had a great season, won the division, blew a horrible playoff game to the Vikings, and that left a bitter taste. So I don't think we're expecting a lot of bitter tastes to come out of this game on Sunday, whether the Giants win or lose.
But this has been a feel-good season for the Giants. A lot of people are out there, they're surprised that the Giants even made it to the playoffs. I think it was Vegas said, 6 wins on the season. So do you think this is something where the Giants, this franchise, have turned the corner? And how do they come out of this game without holes being punched in walls, Tynes?
They have turned a corner. There's no question. Okay. They finally got the general manager head coach combo correct. I think the one thing they've been missing, obviously, is coaching over the last few years. So this team is on the rise. The things they've done throughout the season with the injuries, replacing guys from the streets, making them competent football players, having to win games when they had to win games down the stretch. I get it. They're 2-5-1 down the stretch. I know that this is the most confident 2-5-1 team over their last 8 games that you will ever find in the NFL, but they had to do it a different way. But yes, this franchise has done a complete 180 from the McAdoos, the Shermers, and the Joe Judges. And I think it's ignited the entire city. They have the right guys in place. They have really good young foundational football players that they can build around. So yes, I think this is going to be something that is consistent with the Giants. They're going to continue to be in the mix. And one reason for that is it's Brian Daboll. He is a tremendous football coach. The guys play for him, and that you can tell they really care about their head coach, and that's a big thing.
Well, Paul, you're always in the locker room. You covered this team. You covered this team for quite some time. You mentioned you were there. You were there the last time they made it to the playoffs. What are you feeling that's different from this 22 Giants team from the 2016 Giants team?
Well, I think this team is built a little more to last. If you remember in 2016, they pretty much purchased the defense, right? They signed a bunch of guys. They spent $150 million, and they purchased guys who were mercenaries, who were good players. And the defense, Snacks, Harrison, Janoris Jenkins, Olivier Vernon. They bought guys who were good players. They were not built to last at all. And look, it's revisionist history to look at that year in 2016. They were 11-5, and in Ben McAdoo's rookie year as a head coach, and say, I saw it coming that McAdoo couldn't handle it. I mean, they won a lot of games. Odell Beckham had a big year. Eli was not on fumes, but he was still playing it at a pretty good level. But that was not built to last. This team is very young. This team this year, very young. I have different vibes about Brian Daboll. I like Ben McAdoo, but he was not quite ready for everything there. And plus, Look, you have to be insane not to look at Daboll and Joe Shane and say this is a pairing that will succeed going into the future, because they've succeeded so well this year. I picked them to be 7-10 this year, right? Yep. And most people said you're pretty optimistic there. They're going to win 4 or 5 games. So 7-10 does not get you in a playoff. So I'm shocked. I would say shocked they're in the playoffs, but as the season unfolded, you get less shocked because they're 6-1. Now you think, it's you've set a different bar here. But getting into the playoffs and winning in the playoffs, as you guys know, is a different thing. This is a different deal now. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think to officially say they've turned the corner, they have to win this game. I think they've arrived. I think, like you said, anytime you overplay or over-deliver on expectations, whether it become from both of your coordinators, you've shown that you've got the coaching right. You've gotten the best season out of your franchise quarterback. Saquon looks back, healthy. Defense is flying around. This team has shown that they have arrived, and I think this is that opportunity for so many players on this team, because it's a 53-man roster, but it's 53 individual journeys and stories. I think this is that chance for them to really show that they've turned that corner, because anything can happen once you win that first game in the playoffs. And a soundbite that's kind of going around, making its rounds, is Coach Brian Daboll saying that playoff experience is overrated. Talked to a lot of people last night. A lot of people feel certain ways about it. Tynes, what do you feel about that whole playoff experience thing? What do you think about Brian Daboll saying playoff experience is overrated?
Yeah, I agree. I tend to agree with him. It's certainly a different game and a different vibe and a different feel throughout the week. I think the one thing you notice when you come in on Wednesday, the week of a playoffs, is there is an energy in the building. Mm-hmm. It is undeniable that there is an energy. Guys are moving better. They're flying around. There is a playoff speed. We've talked about that. There is a preseason, a regular season, and a playoff speed, and guys will notice that very quickly. It's good to go out there and, obviously if you're on offense, get hit early, make a play early, and then it's football. It is very, very, very competitive, even more so than the regular season. But I think it is overrated. I think back to our 2 Super Bowl teams, and obviously the second team was a little seasoned. There was 14 of us, I believe, is the number that were on that second Super Bowl team that were on the first team. So not a lot of guys, right? The other 40 guys on your roster were not there when you won that first Super Bowl. But the first Super Bowl, for the most part, I think there were some one-and-done guys. Like I had played in the playoffs before and lost in the first round. Maybe, Eli had, and some of those Giants had done that in previous years. But it is football. It's just more detailed football, and everything becomes accentuated if you make a mistake. And we talk about it for many, many years. So I tend to agree with Brian Daboll here, guys. I really do think it is overrated and over-talked about. But make no mistake about it. There's going to be jitters very early, and that's when you can't make an early mistake because you are nervous. These guys are going to be, a little giddy, a little nervous, a little anxious early in the game, but they will all end up settling down once they get a couple snaps in.
One guy that you hope that doesn't have playoff experience just yet until Sunday is Daniel Jones. You hope he gets those jitters out. He doesn't even come with jitters. Paul, I saw you asking questions yesterday. Everyone was locked in on Daniel when he was doing individuals. The little, it looked a little Dak Prescott-y around the little, around the blocking things. I can't remember what those things are called. But Daniel Jones, it's his first playoff game. You're writing a story about it. I see you smiling there. Does he look ready? Everything that his demeanor yesterday, does he look ready for his first playoff game as a New York Giant?
His demeanor is the same. Look, Daniel is a block. You know what I mean? He is a block. You know what's interesting? You guys know that Wednesday, and Lawrence, you are 100% right. The feeling on Wednesday of a playoff game is different. It is different. And I think Brian Daboll, before we get to Daniel Jones, I think Brian Daboll looked different. And I'm not saying he's playing with house money. I'm not saying, don't misinterpret that, he's satisfied, but he looked a little different. And he said, we all asked, what have you told him about the playoffs? He said, look, we get it. We know there are only 6 games playing this week, this weekend. There's only 6 games. It's a privilege to be here. And you can tell that permeates the building. There's a lot more media. And players notice that. They may not care about it, but they notice it. It feels different. Daniel, comes walking up after the practice in the field house, right? And the stuff wasn't ready yet. These guys got to, mic up, wire the stuff and mic it up. And Daniel's just standing there waiting. And another guy might get a little tipped off, like, this should have been done already. He's just waiting and looking and looking and looking. Then he goes there. And I was trying hard to get him. I used the word demarcation twice in back-to-back questions about, is there a demarcation between a regular season quarterback and a playoff quarterback? And he kind of said no. And then I said, well, how about this? A better question. Is there a demarcation between a playoff quarterback and a playoff winning quarterback? And he kind of said no. And then afterwards, I joked with him in the locker room at his locker. I said, Daniel, at least I know you understood what the word demarcation meant, even though you didn't answer the question. I've been around plenty of players who don't know what that means. I think he's really confident, really confident. You know what demarcation means?
No, not at all.
I'm glad you raised your hand, Tynes, because I don't know.
I'm a kicker. Go ahead. Tell me. I'm a kicker. Yeah.
No,
and I didn't go to Duke. I didn't go to Duke either. He went to Duke. Let's never forget that about Duke.
Yes, he went to Duke. But you know what? He says, I've always been confident in myself, and he says it flat. So you don't know if you believe it. I really think he is. I think he thinks he is going to play a great game.
I agree.
Yeah. I really do. I really, really do.
And when you're talking about the experience, it takes me back to my rookie year. I had a chance to be with the Giants on that practice squad for the Super Bowl team. But the following year, when I actually played with the Dolphins, we went on that run to make it to the playoffs and win the AFC East. We lost to the Baltimore Ravens in the first round. We played them earlier that year. And you got guys like Jerry Porter, who was on the team, Ernest Wilford. You got Ronaldo Hill. There's a lot of guys who had success and been in the playoffs on other teams who were built on this roster. When Brian Dable yesterday was saying, or a lot of guys in the locker room were saying, it's just another week. You're preparing like it's just another week. At first, I was thinking, the media side of me was like, that's just coaches talk. Oh, that's just the players trying to downplay it. But then I really took myself back to 2008, and those guys Joey Porter, who had all that success with the Steelers in the playoffs, he really prepared like it was just another week. He didn't hype it up too much, and that's a big energy guy. And I remember talking to him one time, and I'm just like, hey man, shouldn't you be bigger in the locker room? It's Wednesday, it's Thursday, we're getting ready for the playoffs. For what? The game's not till Sunday. That's when the energy, that's when you kick it on, B. London. So don't be running around here too much, and but just be ready. Detail your work and be ready. And we also had Chad Pennington at quarterback who, that savvy vet, he made sure that we prepared ourselves in the way. So there are a lot of guys on this team where it's like your coordinators have had success in playoffs in this NFL. So it's all about the preparation, I feel like, for these younger guys, because they don't know anything but the now. They don't know anything about the right now. Sorry, my prompt is messing up here. But all right, now we're back. Paul, you got a chance to we were in the locker room yesterday. You got the injury report. Some guys are back. They're healthy. In fact, Wink Martindale might be getting all his groceries. Can you kind of update us on the injury report and where we're at now?
It's there was some bumpy roads to get here. They're a healthy team. I mean, they are a healthy team. If you think of the first game 3 weeks ago against the Vikings, Xavier McKinney was not there. He is a difference maker. He is obviously he's played, the last few games here. He is going to play. He's going to start. He'll be on the field every snap, I would think. Azeez Ojulari got hurt sacking Kirk Cousins in that game 3 weeks ago. He only played 7 snaps the next week. He didn't play at all last week. He is back. He says he feels way better. I think he'll be fine. He obviously will start. Adoree'Jackson is still the one I'm not sure about. I think he will play. It's funny. Adoree'Jackson said, I just have to prove to these guys that I'm healthy. We asked Xavier McKinney about it, and he said, oh, he's definitely playing. And he laughed. He said, he's definitely going to be out there. Now, last time I checked, Xavier McKinney doesn't make the roster for the game, but he thinks he's going to play. I think Adoree'Jackson will play. The question will then be how much and how effective. Do you put him on Justin Jefferson right away? Do you maybe let 2 other guys bracket him and put, Adoree'Jackson maybe on Thielen or something like that? We'll see. Wink Martindale will mix it up. But I think Adoree will play. Then it's a matter of how well. So it is. They're in really good shape, certainly defensively. They will present different looks to the Vikings because they're better in the defensive backfield than they were 3 weeks ago.
Tynes, what do you think about this team getting healthy at the right time?
The playoffs is about health, guys. I mean, the healthiest teams playing the best football, that's traditionally who ends up winning this thing and making a run. So there is no question the Giants are feeling really good about themselves. I mean, when you see an injury report with literally everybody practicing, that is a good sign as a coach. Obviously, Xavier McKinney has deemed Adoree'-Jackson fit for play, so Adoree's going to play.
Yeah.
I did see that interview. I thought it was funny, and I wonder if Coach Dable is going to have a word with him after that interview, because maybe he didn't want to, show all his cards, but they're going to have everybody. And I really like this Giants team against a team the second go around, especially that D line. It seems like our D line has really done a number on a team the second go around. So I'm excited to watch this one.
Yeah, absolutely. You talk about our D-line. The Vikings offensive line looks to be banged up a little bit. They're waiting to hear if they're going to get some of their guys back and healthy. And I think this is the D-line's game, but we'll get into that when it's time to talk matchups. Myself and Tynes know what it's like to rep Big Blue in the playoffs, and Paul knows what it's like to write about Big Blue in the playoffs. But I got a chance to go into the locker room on Wednesday and talk to two of the Giants who were on the 2016 roster the last time the Giants went to the playoffs. That's Landon Collins and Shepard. Check it out. The last time the Giants made it to the playoffs, 2016, you were on that roster. You were a leader on that team. You're a leader now. You guys have gotten – before I get into, your personal story with this organization, let's talk – before me. Let's talk about the team. First game you guys played them. They've had a couple games since then. Is this kind of pretty much the same Vikings offense that you've played against a couple weeks back, or have they evolved in a way?
They evolved in certain aspects, but I mean, if we see the same kind of tendencies. We kind of on the point where we're comfortable what we're going to see or what we're going to get, and we're ready to fly around.
You were able to shut down the run game. Dalvin Cook held him to around 60 yards rushing. Was that by scheme? Was that something where you just trying to take away that force Kirk Cousins to throw? Is that a point of emphasis again heading into this week?
Oh, definitely a point of emphasis to try to stop Cook. I mean, he's a guy over there. When the ball's in his hands, he can make any play and make it and take it for 100. So with that being said, we got guys that got grit in them and just going to go after him and make sure he doesn't get those yardage.
T.J. Hockenson was able to make a couple big plays throughout that game. What's his skill set bring to this offense? How dangerous is he?
He's very dangerous. He's a very savvy vet. He knows a little tendencies on how to get open, how to make his routes, hitting within the other routes that he have. And within that being said, we just have to be keyed in on what he likes to be and where he likes to be at and play our rules.
So your personal journey with this team, I mean, you mean a lot to these Giants fans. When you got that interception against the Colts, the place made my job easier as MC. You had the place shaking in that sense. I mean, from when the Giants contacted you sometime throughout this year, did you really think, take us through your mindset, did you really think you would be back into the playoffs and this team would have success this fast?
I knew this team was going to make it to the playoffs. Just once I stepped into the door, once I got to London, I could tell how everybody were. It's like a family here, and that's how it was back in 2016. So it was an unbreakable bond. So when I stepped into it, I said, "Oh yeah, this team going to the playoffs now." When I stepped on the field, it was a big help. That's it.
What's the difference between this team and the 2016 team?
Not much of a big difference. I would say the only biggest difference is it was more vets on that 2016 teams compared to we're a very young team, and this young team is really getting after, and they really bought all the way into the system. You
personally, a win in a big game this Sunday against this team, do you think that seals your legacy within Giants football, the Giants organization? I'm asking the media questions.
I don't know. Honestly, I'm with that. Shoot, I don't know. Honestly, I feel like just making plays here sets my life up, sets my career up, and keeps the love with the fans.
Last but not least, what's your relationship like with Wink Martindale, and how is he able to turn around this defense so fast?
Oh, man, it's great. My relationship is great with Wink. He's very transparent, very honest, great coach, loves his players, keeps us first. So with that being said, when you do that for your players, they're going to put everything out on the field for you. You're going to do whatever they want. You know what I mean? So he's a great coach to play for.
Landon Collins, welcome back to the playoffs. Good luck on Sunday.
Thank you.
I'm here with veteran wide receiver Shepard. Shep, this Sunday is Giants' first time making it to the playoffs or playing in a playoff game since 2016. You were on that team. Like, I understand you gotta, kind of be from the sideline from this time. But what are you saying to the receiver corps, because this is these guys' first playoff game ever? So what are you saying to the receiver corps, getting them ready and mentoring them for this matchup?
Yeah, I just think taking advantage of every opportunity that you get. When you talk about games like this, it comes down to the small plays, and that's just a message that I've been relaying to the guys, and also that the speed of the game is going to go up. I mean, you're used to a speed in the regular season. Each stage of the year, the speed goes up, and in the playoffs, it definitely does.
What kind of details? When you talk about guys detailing their work, I remember when I was with the Miami Dolphins, we played the Baltimore Ravens once that year. Then we played them in the playoffs. Like you said, Ed Reed and then Ray Lewis, that speed got even faster. So when you're talking about detailing your work with something that you kind of have to harp on them or really be on them going from regular season to playoffs.
Yeah, I think mixing things up for sure, especially at this time of year. The defense definitely has a lot of film on you throughout the season, and then we're playing a team that we played a couple of weeks ago. So definitely have to mix some stuff up so guys can't get a jump on different routes that you run and different things that you do throughout the game.
They were able to put up 445 yards of total offense against this team. I mean, the receiver corps, they had over 250 themselves when they played this Vikings secondary the first time. So how much of it is switching things up, but also doing what you did successfully the first time?
Yeah, I mean, it's just paying attention to detail, and guys have been doing a great job of that throughout the week. I've been seeing guys with their iPads just watching film. Just like they can get a jump on us, we can get a jump on them as well. And guys have definitely been doing that throughout preparation.
I mentioned that 2016 playoff team. You were a rookie that year. There was the infamous boat trip that year. Not to get into it in terms of, you don't have to tell me what kind of went down in that sense, but how different is this team's mindset to that 2016 team's mindset?
Yeah, Coach after the game told everybody we need everybody to be smart and do the things that winning football teams do, and that's be a pro. And that's something that we've been talking about all throughout the year. And we have a great group of guys that understood that and have definitely done just that.
You think this team, with the mindset that you guys have had, you think they needed kind of that disclaimer? Or have they grown? Have you seen this team grow up before your eyes faster than normally in the NFL locker room?
We got a group of guys that know what's the right thing to do and have definitely been pros throughout the year. So we good.
Look how much they've grown. 7 years ago, they were little babies. Sterling Shepard was a rookie that year, and I'm glad he kind of touched on that boat trip a little bit, talk about how much he's seen from this team this year compared to last year. And Landon Collins talking about his relationship with Wink Martindale, I thought was huge, because remember at the beginning of the year, guys, I always thought that Landon Collins would have a place here in this defense. So I'm glad that he's come back and he's having success. All right, let's get into the key matchups of this game, because a lot of Giants fans think this game is winnable. The Giants think it themselves. Tynes, I'll go to you first. First and foremost, the top key matchup this week will be?
I think it's Kevin O'Connell versus Wink Martindale. I want to see the adjustments that Wink is going to make. Obviously, Kirk Cousins tore us up on the blitz. He was really effective when we blitzed. He was able to get the ball out fast. This is going to be a completely different secondary. Wink has all of his weapons at his disposal. Azeez will play, hopefully, a healthy game, but he gets Adoree back, Xavier McKinney. I'm really interested to see the adjustments that either coach makes. Are they going? Are the Vikings going to turn around and run the ball more? You could see that maybe coming, because obviously the Giants have struggled all season long against the run. There is no doubt about it. The stats prove it. They have not been good against the run. I could really see maybe the Vikings going to a run heavy with a little bit of play action. You've still got Hawkinson, who lit us up. We all know about Jefferson. He's going to make his plays. But I'm really interested to see what Wink Martindale does differently, in a 4-week span, because I said this earlier in the week. I think it favors Wink Martindale. I just don't think offensively you can revamp that offense enough. Now, you can run more, but certainly I want to see what Wink does versus Kevin O'Connell.
Yeah, and that's the thing about playing a team twice. You kind of You see how they're going to attack you. You see how they adjust in the second half, and then you prepare for them. Wink blitzed Kirk Cousins, and that Vikings offense 51% of the time. They pressured him 18 times. Kirk Cousins, a savvy, cerebral quarterback like that, he's going to know where his sights and his hots are. They ran a lot of slants with Justin Jefferson as his hots and sights. Now, do you take it from slants to a now route? Or do you have Justin Jefferson run some sort of different route? Or do the sight adjustment or the hot read go to a different receiver or a tight end? I'm anxious to see what that chess match is going to be like. So I'm glad you brought that up. Paul, what's your key matchups going to be?
Well, first of all, you mentioned the boat trip, that infamous picture of the shirtless receivers. I saw the wide shot of that picture. Lawrence Tynes was shirtless right on the side there, but he got crapped out of the picture, right? Because Lawrence he was tight with those receivers.
That's all we have
so
time to do is just hit the weights. See, everyone, Steve Weatherford, Body of the Year one year in the NFL for God's sakes.
Yeah. Look, I got a couple of matchups. Look, you guys, there would be no rings in this podcast at all if not for a dominant defensive line, right? To just kick butt in the postseason. That's the strength. I forgot to mention that Leonard Williams will be back from his neck injury. He's fine. He'll be practicing and playing. The Vikings have, I think they're down to their third center. Their right tackle, Brian O'Neill, was hurt last week. I don't know if he's going to play. So that's my number one matchup is that, look, Dexter Lawrence has been a beast. Kayvon's had a really good rookie year. Ojolari's back. Leonard Williams. I mean, this favors the Giants in a big way. And we've seen this, right, in the playoffs when the Giants have a defensive line that's eating. It could be a big thing. And also, my second one is Xavier McKinney on T.J. Hockenson. Justin Jefferson is great. He is great. You don't stop him. You got to just keep him in the ballpark here. T.J. Hawkinson's really good, but he had 2 touchdowns against the Giants. Xavier McKinney was not there. Xavier McKinney said, I'm looking forward to that matchup. You can't have 2, right? One guy can go off. They had 2 guys go off. You can't do that. So they got to get T.J. Hockenson under control. That's a weakness. I don't think they're great against tight ends. Landon Collins, God bless him, is not that kind of a hybrid right now. I don't think Tony Jefferson, I'm not sure. Enter Xavier McKinney. He's the guy that's got to hang with this big tight end and throw him off as best he can.
Yeah, and he was catching some balls on the sideline yesterday. I saw even Sterling Shepard was throwing him some balls, and he was going up and getting it. He has that hand pretty wrapped up, looking like the penguin, but at the same time, it's playoffs. And I agree with you about this Giants defensive line against this the Minnesota Vikings beat-up offensive line, because when you're talking about how the Giants did a great job in the second half stopping the Vikings run game and Dalvin Cook, now I see them trying to not only force feed the run game, but also max protect and try and throw the ball down the field. Kirk Cousins does a great job when it comes to getting the ball to Justin Jefferson and those guys down the field in those one-on-one matchups with whether it be a corner or a safety. But my key matchup this week, guys, is going to be the battle against not the B team in the sense of they're second teamers or anything. They're just not the stars that everyone's talking about. So T.J. Hockenson and Justin Jefferson is going to command all types of respect. But when you think of the 3 guys after them, K.J. Osborne, the backup tight end at that time, they have Irv Smith Jr. back, and Adam Thielen. They had 5 catches for 39 yards last game. Adam Thielen is a former Pro Bowler. K.J. Osborne has been a guy who's made some big plays for this offense throughout the year. And Irv Smith Jr., we know the success that he's had in this league. So if you're going to double the Justin Jeffersons and T.J. Hawkinsons, you can't get beat. And you can't get beat badly by the Osbornes, the Madisons, the Smith Juniors, and the Thielens. So I think that's going to be a great matchup for the Nick McLeods, for the Fabian Moreaus, because, okay, we're not asking you to strap up and play against Justin Jefferson. We're asking you to strap up and shut down a guy who could now be the new hot read, could now be the guy who has the one-on-one matchup that Kirk Cousins is going to try and throw the ball to. And then I think another key matchup, guys, you got to rattle Kirk Cousins. You have to rattle Kirk Cousins. We talk about the defensive line. We talk about Wink Martindale and the success that the Giants had against him, sacking him 4 times last game. How would you? I'm talking to Wink Tynes. I'm talking to Lawrence Martindale. How would you go about attacking Kirk Cousins?
I'm just gonna, listen. I'm not gonna change who I am. I'm not gonna change what got me here. Wink has a plethora of blitzes that can confuse even the most savvy vets in this league. It is when you have to think that quickly on your feet. That's a problem. I don't care how many years you played, how many defenses you've seen. Wink Martindale to me seems like a guy that he says, look, he tells you he's going to blitz, and he's going to blitz. So the guys have to get home. They have to, play well, get after the quarterback, hit Kirk Cousins, like you mentioned. The center, Bradbury, is dealing with the back. And, oh, by the way, you got to go block Dexter Lawrence and Leonard Williams. Holy cow, what an assignment. That's not going to be good on his back. The right tackle, I did see they have a young man coming off the IR that has been a starter in the past, so look for him maybe to play. They activated his 21-day window yesterday, so he may replace the right tackle that was injured last week. But listen, Wink is Wink. He's going to do what he does. The players are going to do what they do, and I think that lets them play free. They're never going to change who they are, and I don't see this Giants football team changing really anything from what got them here. So the consistency is what you like and what they've done well. So just be who you are, Wink. Go after blitz 50% of the time and see what happens.
Another key matchup is going to be Mike Kafka versus the Vikings defensive coordinator, Ed Donatel. Now, we've got our own Paul Kafka on the show today. Paul, 455 yards of total offense last game. How are you going to attack this Vikings defense this time around?
Hey, did you notice Mike Kafka, young Mike Kafka, is getting requests for head coaching interviews with the Texans and the Panthers.
Yeah.
And Lawrence, you were mentioning Wink, breaking down Wink. He's got to be himself. Wink so far has not gotten any attention for head coaching, and he's the one who is really at 59 years old is saying, I want to be a head coach. I want to be a head coach. That's a little interesting dynamic that goes into this game as well. Wink wants to. Yeah, you don't think I'm a head coach material? He may put some stuff in there to say, yeah, think again. Is it a little early for Kafka to be talking about this? Look, people get interviewed a lot. We know that. He can't do it now. Brian Daboll knows that too, right? Brian Daboll, the last 3 years has went to a lot of interviews. So he knows the deal there, but, he's not worried about Kafka being focused or anything like that. Look, it's easy to say just give the ball to Saquon, Kafka. You know what? But I think, they came out throwing 3 weeks ago in Minnesota, and I think that they can throw on him again. Isaiah Hodgins and Richie James and Darius Slayton do not lack for confidence. They lack for curb appeal as opposed to a Justin Jefferson. There's no question about that. But these guys are only getting more confident. They're playing better. They are key components of a team that won 9 games and is in the playoffs. I don't think they have any fear of throwing the ball on this Viking secondary. Daniel Jones finished the season with the lowest rated interception percentage in the league. 1.1% of his throws were intercepted. The great Tom Brady was 1.2%. So no starting quarterback throws fewer interceptions than Daniel Jones. Now, we remember he threw one in the game in Minnesota, and that was a big turnover. He has to avoid that. But, Mike Kafka, I think, look, these are smart guys. Daboll and Kafka, they are offensive orchestrators, and they have saved some stuff here, I'm sure. Lawrence, you said about, the second time around, they dominated the coaching matchup the second time around against the Commanders, I feel. Can they do it this week? We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, you're going against a Vikings defense that gives up 388 yards a game, which is second most in the league in total offense. They're 21st in red zone defense. So when the Giants get down there, you got to get 6 instead of 3. But last but not least, if I am to give them credit in terms of this Vikings defense, they're 8th most in the league in takeaways with 25. So it's kind of that bend but don't break type of a defense where we'll give you points, and even if you get into the red zone, you'll score, but we'll get a takeaway at some point throughout the game that's going to put our offense in a better position by giving their offense an extra possession. And we talked about what the coordinators did and the success they had the second time they played the Commanders. So do we all agree that we're feeling good that the first game was kind of a really good indicator on how this game will go? Or are you throwing it all out and it's been like, hey, it's now one and done. Playoffs is a different beast, Tynes?
Yeah, I think any time you play that well, it's going to give you confidence. But they have to go do it, guys. Let's make no mistake about it. This team is 13-4 that they're playing. They've won a lot of close ball games. It is not going to be an easy game. I get it. You can play well, but you can also get blown out. This offense is explosive. They really are. We've seen the Vikings not play as well down the stretch. I mean, they've given up. If you throw out the Chicago game, last game of the year, and their last 4 prior to that, they're giving up 33 points a game on defense. That is not good. So I'm not going to just hand the Giants the win on a silver platter. But anytime, obviously, you play well against a team you feel you match up well with, you should be confident. So I'm expecting a confident bunch walking into U.S. Bank Stadium. But by no means does that mean you're just going to win the game. But certainly, I look for them to play confidently.
Yeah, we're talking about a team that's 5-3 against winning teams this season,
yeah.
And then they're also 3-2 against playoff teams. So I know exactly what you mean. I'm glad to close out that block with that, because that, Giants fans, is how we think this game is going to go. And we got a chance to bring back our friend from Vikings Wire, who is Tyler Forness, for this playoff edition of Know Your Enemy. It's the rematch every Giants fan wanted for the playoffs. It's Giants-Vikings on Sunday for the wild card round. Of course, Minnesota took game 1 after hitting a 61-yard field goal to win it. Well, Tyler Forness of the Vikings Wire is back again for a playoff edition of Know Your Enemy. Tyler, when Giants fans heard we were getting the Vikings, they were happy because of how close the game was. When I knew we were playing the Vikings, I'm happy because we get to see your hair again, my man. All right, let's break down this. This wild card game. The Giants put up 445 yards of total offense in the first game. What would you do to switch things up defensively for the Vikings this time around?
I think the big thing that you have to worry about this Giants offense, you have to worry about the quick game. Daniel Jones does not have a powerful arm to really drive the football down the field, and he was very successful hitting a lot of slant routes, a lot of in routes, just your simple stuff underneath, which is what this defense is designed to give up. I think if you really want to be successful against Daniel Jones, you have to take away the quick game. And these receivers, while they played well against the Vikings, they're not guys that you necessarily want starting in the National Football League. Get them impressed. Duke Shelley and Patrick Peterson were PFF's number 3 and number 4 corners in coverage this past season. Let them play. Get them up in their face. Take them off of their timing. And then if you can do that, then you have Danielle Hunter and Zadarius Smith who can rush around the edge and get to Daniel Jones. I'm not necessarily concerned about the running game because the Vikings have done a pretty good job in stopping the run, but you have to stop the quick game with this Giants offense.
You got to stop that quick game, and I understand the corners that you just mentioned, but Richie James, 8 for 90. Isaiah Hodgins, 8 for 89. Darius Slayton, 4 for 79. The Giants receivers had themselves a pretty solid game that first time around. So, yeah, we're going to see what that quick game is like, and if the Vikings can force the ball out of Daniel Jones' hand fast. Let's talk about the Vikings offensive line. They're a bit shaken up. Back in week 18, which is a week ago, they started their 4th different offensive line combination within the past 7 games. Your offensive coordinator, Wes Phillips, how are you going to call a game to protect Kirk Cousins?
So this is going to be very interesting. We did lose star right tackle Brian O'Neill in week 17 to a partially torn Achilles tendon. That was a really big loss because he has been the most consistent right tackle, arguably in the league the last 3 years. Now, we did get Irv Smith Jr., the tight end, back from a high ankle sprain this past week, and I think we're going to see something that the Vikings did against New England Patriots when Christian Darrisaw was out. Run a lot of 12 personnel, get some chips, especially against those nice edge rushers with Kayvon Thibodeau and Azeez Ojulari. Get Oli Udoh, who's going to be starting a right tackle, some help, and then you can get these guys on routes. I think that's going to be the key to really stopping this Giants pass rush because the interior, they handled them relatively well, but with Chris Reed now at center, he is not exactly what you would call a center. He is a offensive lineman playing center, and we've had some snap count issues, but those seem to have calmed down, especially after last week, and he is a much better interior blocker than the Giants saw on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, 4 sacks allowed against the Giants the last time. And you guys really didn't establish the run game. You only rushed for 83 yards that first game. You want to see more runs called as well?
I want to see some more balance in the offense, and that doesn't necessarily mean the running game per se. I want to see something we talked about the Giants offense. I want to see the Vikings establish the quick game. That can be running the football. That can be screens. The Vikings were atrocious at screens throughout the first 15 weeks of the year. They've really developed that game ever since the Indianapolis Colts. And obviously we saw Dalvin Cook take that 62-yard screen pass to tie the game against Indy. I want to see some of those elements. I want to see misdirection. Let's get Thibodeau and Ojulari pulling upfield and then taking advantage behind them. They love the tight end screen to Hawkinson. I would expect some of that, especially with how they're going to chip on the right side with Oli Udoh. And you know what? The running game would be nice. Dalvin Cook had his 4th fumble last week against the Bears. That tied him with Alvin Kamara for the most non-quarterback fumbles this season. So I'm going to be a little on the careful side with that, but let's get the quick game going. If it's running the football, if it's screens, if it's short routes, I want to see that established, and then we can push the ball down the field.
Those 4 fumbles are something that we're going to keep our eye on. The Giants defense is always looking for takeaways. Last game, Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson went off. Now, they are definitely going to be a priority for Wink Martindale's defense this time around. How come they were so deadly the first time?
You know, that's something that's really interesting. The whole idea behind getting TJ Hawkinson was Justin Jefferson needed a running mate, but a top tight end is about $5 million cheaper than a wide receiver 2, which they were looking at with Brandon Cooks from Houston. And when you have to put so much attention on Justin Jefferson, you can get the ball to Hawkinson, and he can really extend you down the field. He's 6'5", 255. He runs well, runs crisp routes. And then Justin Jefferson is just insane. You can bracket him. That touchdown to take the lead against the Giants and make it an 8-point game, he was double covered. It was a perfect route, a perfect throw. And sometimes you just can't beat greatness. I would expect that the Giants are going to have some different looks for the Vikings. And Wink Martindale is brilliant with how he likes to blitz and how he likes to attack. I would expect Justin Jefferson to really see some different looks. And if they're smart, they're going to hit him at the line of scrimmage early.
All right, thanks, Tyler, for that. It's going to be a big one on Sunday. Now it's time for predictions. It's playoffs. They're playoff predictions, so I got to add a little spice to it. Playoff predicciones. Tynes, you going to smile on that one? There we go. I did that for you.
I like that.
I'm going to start with you, playoff Paul. Dalvin Cook was held to only 64 yards rushing last game. I'm putting the Dalvin Cook rushing 81 yards over under. You start us off.
I think over. I think Lawrence might be onto something just as far as they may run the ball a little more. You know what? Their defensive line, their offensive line against the Giants' defensive line is not a good matchup. I don't know if they want to put Kirk Cousins back there all the time. I think it's going to be a close game. The Vikings and Giants almost always play close games. So I think he's going to need a lot of carries, but I think he goes over 81 yards.
Tynes.
Yeah, I like that too, Paul. I think screen game, run game, tight end type game for the Vikings. I would switch it up. I would not let Kayvon and Azeez tee off, especially with the 2 interior guys the Giants have. I could see Dalvin Cook going for over 100 yards this game. He is an elite running back. Again, doesn't kill you, but obviously you got to eliminate the big chunk plays for him. But he is an elite runner. I say over 80 yards.
Yeah, I'm going to go over as well. If you can take away some of the chunk plays in the passing game, and as long as that's not a backbreaker of a run against this defense, then I think a little bit over, having them run the ball a little bit more than what they did last time could really help this Giants defense. Again, as long as it's not anything where they're controlling the clock. Here's 2 guys that not only controlled the clock, they controlled the game last game. Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, they combined for 242 yards combined. I'm going to put these combined yards at 199 over, under, Tynes. Go.
I'm going to stay under. Not by much either. I think Justin Jefferson is going to do what he does, but I think the real focus to me would be for Wink is to slow down Hawkinson. I think he opens up a lot of things for Jefferson as well as Cook. So I will take the under here. I think they do a much better job with the Xavier back there on the tight end, Hawkinson, who's an unbelievable player. So under for me.
Paul.
Yeah, I'm going to go under also. A lot of the same things that Lawrence said. I think Landon Collins was not as big of a factor as he was 3 weeks ago as he is now. I think the Giants rally and tackle pretty well. So get the ball out of Kirk Cousins' hands. Those Hawkinson plays, they give it to him. Now they got to rally and get him for 4, 5, 6 yards. If you do that, it's going to be hard for him to get over 100 yards. And you got to keep him out of the end zone. There's no question about it. He can't have these guys more than the yards. These guys had 3 touchdowns between them. That's too many. You got to lower that.
Yeah, I'm going to go over on this one. I know I have the feeling I'm going to go with you on this Tynes that they'll neutralize Hawkinson, but this guy Justin Jefferson is having himself a lights out season. I see a lot of play action, max protection, trying to get him the ball down the field. That's when I believe, is the most deadliest, and he's got sticky glue in his hands for sure. So, but just to keep him out of the end zone, that's the goal right there. So we'll go Minnesota forced turnovers. If the Vikings, can they force 1.5 turnovers, over or under? Paul, you can go first.
Well, Daniel Bellinger, after that game, walked around the facility every minute with a football under his arm. I don't know if he slept with it. So Daniel Bellinger, I think, learned his lesson. Look, it's easy. We say, there were 3 big mistakes, right, that cost him in that game. Just because we can identify them doesn't mean that they're not going to do them again, right? As Lawrence said, you can identify it. You got to go play it. I think under. The Giants, as we said, Daniel Jones doesn't throw a lot of interceptions. Saquon's been a vice grip with the ball. This is playoff football. You can't be giving it away. So I say under.
Tynes.
Yeah, I think under as well. I mean, 1.5. I think they're going to have to if they want to win the game. That's really what upended them last time, guys. They cannot turn this football over more than one time and think they're going to win. That place is going to be electric. U.S. Bank, the stadium, it's loud. It's a tough place to play in. Explosive offense. So I think they eliminate those turnovers they had last time. They gave the ball away 2 times last time. So I'll go under here.
Dang, I feel like the bad guy here. I'm going to have to go with over. And I think one of the turnovers could be something that doesn't hurt. I think this is going to be a defensive game for the Giants. I really believe that even though they had all that success when it comes to the total yards in our last game, I think it's one of those games where you try and slow it down when it comes to Saquon and controlling the clock. But there are going to be times where you have to take shots. Things are going to happen, especially on the road in the playoffs. I'm just going to go over on that one. But, obviously you still want the Giants to win this game. Let's flip it over. Riverside, we'll go. And this is, it was a huge matchup between Daniel Jones and Kirk Cousins the first time. Now Daniel Jones this is Spotlight TV, baby. This is prime time again. Daniel Jones, total touchdowns. I put it at 1.5. Paul, I'll start with you.
1.5.
Yeah.
That's it has to be over. That's passing and running.
Yeah. Total TDs.
That's who else? How well, unless Saquon gets 3 rushing touchdowns, over. Look, Daniel threw for 335 yards in that game. I think he's very confident. I think he's more confident in his receivers now than he ever has been. And he is certainly a factor with his legs. So I think 2.5 would be a better line here. 1.5, I am taking Daniel and going to the bank.
Tynes.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go under. I think he has one. I think he has one throwing touchdown. It could be a running touchdown, right? It doesn't matter. But I think this is a Saquon Barkley game. I think this is on his shoulders. I think a big game has to come from him. They will sprinkle in the pass game. I understand he is more confident throwing to the guys that he has had out there for the last month with Hodgins and James and Slayton. So, but this is a Saquon Barkley game for me, guys.
I'll go over and I'll put it at 2. I just think he throws for 2 touchdowns. I don't think he runs one. But again, yeah, I agree with you on that part of times where it's like get Saquon the ball, feed him early and often.
He's going to want the ball. Saquon wants the ball.
Oh,
this
absolutely.
game. He's going to want it.
Absolutely. New York Giants, total offensive yards. They had 445 the first game. I put this one at 399. Tynes, I'll go with you first.
Oh, man, that's a really good number. I'll go just under that. I don't think this is the big explosive offense that we saw at U.S. Bank a month ago. I think this is a more controlled, take care of the football, run it like we talked about just a moment ago, get some play action, maybe hit a big play if you can. And I think there's going to be a big play on special teams for the Giants somewhere along the line. I really do. I think they're close on kickoff return and punt return. So I will go under 399 total offensive yards.
Paul?
I think under also. I kind of agree. I think, it's foolhardy to look at the last game and say, okay, this is the second half of that game. It can be very different. This could be 17-13. I don't think it'll be that quite low scoring, but I think the Vikings defense is pretty shabby. I think they gave up 400 yards 9 times this year, right? So that 399 number is right there, but I agree. I think maybe a little more Saquon, a little more ball control. Although they're not going to be afraid to throw it. So I'll say just under.
I'm going to go over, and I'm going to be specific at 411. I talked to Isaiah Hodgins yesterday as well. This receiving core, they had success against this secondary. They feel like they're the underdogs. They feel like everyone's talking about the Justin Jeffersons and the TJ Hawkinsons, which we should be. But they really feel as though because of that last game, this receiving core has some swag. They've got some moxie heading into this game. I think they'll be able to have success in the throwing game. And, of course, Saquon is going to have to get off as well. But 411, write that down.
Brandon, may I quickly ask, how in the hell did you come up with 411?
It just popped up, man. It's sometimes these numbers.
It's like a 411. Remember 411 information?
That's how you find out who
411.
And so this is how we're going to find out who the Giants receivers are.
Got it.
411.
Look at
Write
this.
it down.
This is good.
Kenny Galladay scored last week. It's a Giants receiver. It's there for the receivers. It's there in the tarot card.
That's true.
All right. Last but not least, the New York Giants force 1.5 turnovers. I put it at 1.5. They're forcing. Defense takes takeaways. So 1.5 times. Go ahead. Kick us off.
1,000% yes. I think they left some stuff on the table last game. Obviously, there was a pass interference. McLeod had one early. Flott had one that he couldn't completely control. I just think they're going to create some turnovers. Maybe in the kicking game, but I think defensively they're going to get a couple. I'm putting all my stock in Wink this week to come up with a plan that does confuse Kirk Cousins. So I'm going over.
Paul.
The Giants finished the year with 6 interceptions. Okay. I think that's the fewest for a playoff team since I think the Steelers in like 78 or 79. Okay. Wow. So 6 interceptions is not a lot of, some guys have that themselves, right? The Giants had it all season. So I'm going to say under. They have not proven to me that they are a takeaway kind of team at all. They can sack okay. They get some strip sacks here and there, but they're now maybe with Xavier McKinney back, he missed a lot of time. That helps. He's got to make sure he can secure it with that left hand. But I'm going to say under because they have just not shown me that they're a team that is really into theft at this point.
I'm going to go with over on this one, and I got Kirk Cousins throwing 2 this game. You've got the defensive line at as healthy as they've been this entire season, and they got after Kirk Cousins last game, 4 sacks. And one thing that he did last game, he protected the ball. Once he felt that pressure, he kind of conceded and gave up. But now this is playoffs. You're going to want to make a play. So you're going to feel that pressure, someone in your face. You're going to want to throw that ball instead of tucking it. I think that's the time for a guy to get his hands in the passing lane, tip ball, someone come down with the ball. They're going to have to. You're going to have to make Kirk Cousins give the ball up, and you're going to have to put him on his back as much as you can. So 1.5 turnovers, I see the Giants getting those takeaways. So it's time for the extra point. I kind of want to switch it up this time since Tynes, you're the kicker. Final thoughts? You go last this time. You put the 61-yarder away this time for Blue Rush.
You got it.
So, Paul, your extra point. Final thoughts on this game?
Look, I try to learn from history and things like that, and so I look back at 2007 and 11, and I say, what was I thinking going into the playoffs for this team, right? Did I see a long playoff run? I did not. But in both those games, in 2007, I thought the Giants would go to Tampa and win, which they did. And I thought the next week against the Cowboys, they would lose against the number 1 seed, which they did not, as we know. Now, in 2011, I thought the Giants are playing home against the Falcons. I thought the Giants would win, which they did convincingly. And then the next week was in Green Bay, right? And I said, I don't know about that. I think I picked them to lose, and they won. So it's I'm trying to relate that to this game. I'm picking the Giants to win. I don't think it's easy. The Vikings are 11-0 in one-score games, so this is probably going to be a one-score game. I just, I like the coaching. I like Daniel Jones. I think he's playing well. And you know what? The Vikings have one unit which is bad, which is their defense. The Giants have not a great run defense, but their defense is not bad. You know what I mean? So the Giants don't have anything you look at and say, that is a big problem. The Vikings' problem is defense, and I think that will be just enough for the Giants to win the game. So my thought is that, this is not house money. I think they're a really live underdog. They've been there. They know the building. They know the crowd. They know everything. They're very much even money to win this game in my mind.
Damn, Paul, you just gave us one of those Disney movie pregame speeches, man. I'm ready to suit up after that one. This is to the Giants receiver core. You just had success last game. They've been trying to trade people, bring people in, get them out. People have been saying that you guys are what's holding this team back, and you showed that you can make plays. Go out there and run the table. If you're Richie James, if you're Isaiah Hodgins, if you're Darius Slayton, go out there and run the table. I'm going to be with Plaxico Burress at the viewing party. I want Plaxico to look and be like, man, these Giants receivers are balling today, dog. And the way that Plax talks, go out there and ball out. And for Don Wink Martindale, don't blink, wink. You've shown that you got this defense playing for you that, like Landon Collins said, they'd run through a brick wall for you. This defense will play for you. We know that you're going to put them in position to make plays. Go after it. Go balls out this game and go after Kirk Cousins and take this game because you've done nothing but great things and turn the culture around in this Giants defensive unit. All right, Tynes, got you set up. Running out to the field.
No, I appreciate that. Paul did not get me as excited as he did you. So, I'm going to listen. I think this game is about two quarterbacks. I think one comes in with baggage and the other one doesn't. And I'm going to ride with Daniel Jones all day long. Kirk Cousins is going to be asked a lot of questions this week. We know what they say about him in prime time. We know what they say about him. Anything that's not 1:00 Eastern. He is playing with baggage. He is going to try and come out there and do way too much like he always does in the playoffs. And I think he gives us the ball a couple times, and that's the difference. The Giants are playing with great confidence, as they should. This team has nothing to lose. I know no one will say that, but they're playing pretty good football too, so I don't think we can get lost in that. I'm taking the Giants comfortably here. I don't think any Giants fan is going to be on pins and needles at all on Sunday. The Giants will be in control of this game. I think they win by a touchdown. I'm taking the Giants 27-20. Let's get ready for Philadelphia.
Ooh, the snap, the hold, the kick. It's good. Tynes with that final thought, baby. All right. That's the way to close out a show, Tynes. And I need to thank everyone. I feel really aggressive with my thank you right now. Thank you, everyone, for watching and listening to this episode of the Blue Rush Podcast, our New York Giants show. And please subscribe to Blue Rush on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And make sure to follow New York Post Sports and SNY's YouTube channels for all videos from Blue Rush. New episodes of the show drop Monday morning following Giants games and Thursdays previewing the week ahead. For Paul Schwartz and Lawrence Tynes, I'm Brandon London, and you best believe we're going to catch you on another episode of Blue Rush.